Morning, everybody. It's Dr. Ken Wakes Up. I'm Dr. Ken. Today is Friday, January 2nd, 2025. It's too few Fahrenheits outside to keep the water from freezing. So I just looked on the weather report. It says it's 24 Fahrenheit, but it feels like 25. So please don't complain. In the cup today is Aveley Farms El Regalito. It's a personal favorite when made by the baristas behind the counter there at Aveley Farms. Oh, it's pretty good. Pretty good, made in the percolator. Oh, just like this coffee is too fancy for drinking in the morning though, because it's got complexity and flavors. Whereas what I really need is to jam the caffeine in there. Today's Friday after New Year's, so nothing too urgent today. I just gotta finish putting in some info. Hold on a second. Don't lie. The truth is good enough. It's telling me I slept for 7 hours and 9 minutes. I don't think that's possible, but let's check the report. Come on. Let me see. 10:20 p.m. to 6:50. Anyway, 7:09. I gotta update my spreadsheet. Must not All right. Well, I thought that I'd slept better than 6:20, but I wasn't going to argue. It's at your own peril if you argue with the information source. So anyway, today's Friday the 2nd of January, or January 2nd, or January the 2th, if you're learning English and want to understand that there's a regularity to how you put suffix on the rankings. Like in German, it's t, so erste is first, zweite is second, dritte is third, vierte is fourth. But if you're learning English, you don't remember, or maybe you assume that it's going to be the same, but it's not. It's first st, second nd, third rd. So if you just put the word, zwei, drei, vier, zwei, zweite, drei, dritte, vier, vierte, and you just directly translate it in your mind, you'd say the oneth, the tooth, and the threeth. But as we know from speaking English, I've got more experience speaking English than I do speaking German, for example, that it's second. Okay, enough of that. I just saw a news story the other day. It wasn't yesterday, it was a couple of days ago. But the Swiss, the commanding general, the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairperson, who would be the analog in the United States, he's saying that Switzerland's defenses aren't strong enough to resist an all-out attack from a superpower like Russia, and thus they need to spend significantly more money on their military. to put to the side for a minute that their defenses never were able to do that, never, never, is beside the point for right now. The other half of the point is that in 1989, in the fall of 1989, they had a referendum, national referendum, to decide once and for all, I guess, or till that point, whether Switzerland really needed an army. 1989. I don't know if I still have that book sitting here or not. But there was a popular Swiss author named Max Frisch who wrote a little pamphlet called Schweiz ohne Armee, ein Palaver. Schweiz ohne Armee is Switzerland without an army, and then Palaver is a fireside conversation. And the activity is a kid and his grandfather talking about the necessity of an army in 19 late 1980s modernity. And the results of the referendum were fairly highly positive toward keeping the army. The other context that was going on at the time was unrest in Eastern Europe. This is when the Berlin Wall fell in December, I think, of 89. Late December of 89, the Romanians overthrew their ruler, but the election was in October or November, somewhere in there. So this referendum was before all those events happened. But you can guess that those things didn't just happen overnight. The Berlin Wall didn't open between East and West Berlin just on whatever date, December 1st or whatever. There were protests leading up to it. There were protests all over Eastern Europe. And one of the guys in my class, I think his dad was involved in one of the major Swiss national banks. I think there were two or three of them at the time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He said, just imagine that there's unrest a couple of countries away. The only thing between Switzerland and the then Czechoslovakia was Austria. And between Poland and Switzerland was East Germany first, and then Germany, West Germany at the time. So Switzerland wasn't as much of an isolated enclave as it appears to be now. Even though there were no threats to Switzerland, there was just an existential fear, I guess. Later, in the spring of 1990, the guy who was in charge of the Swiss Air Force put in an impassioned plea to replace their standard fighter jet from, I think it was something like a Mirage, French-built plane called the Mirage. It was a Delta wing. And they wanted the, say, F4 Tiger. Maybe I got that wrong. But anyway, F4s. I think. Not F4s. Not F14s. Those are way too big. It was like a F. Anyway, they wanted a faster, more modern jet that had modern avionics and controls and so forth, so that they could. The demonstration I remember seeing was a Russian or an enemy plane approaching Barron, which is more or less in the center for this purpose, and a fighter jet that's scrambled in Geneva that's on the western side. So the enemy plane is coming from the eastern side, and the defender is coming from the western side, and that a modern airplane or modern warplane at that time could lock on to the defending plane from Switzerland well before, lock onto and fire a weapon at the defending plane well before, and that the weapon would get to the airplane and destroy it before the defending plane even saw the other plane on its radar. So that seemed like a convincing argument, and they wound up getting those American jets. And now, of course, this is 30 years later. Those those jets are no longer modern enough, I guess. So anyway, they're having that argument again, as I understand it, to replace the whatever they were. F12. I don't know what it was. It doesn't matter. I'm waking up. Don't hold me to a lot of details like which airplane model was it. Don't. All right, so we're gonna do Wordle. This is my word for the day. It's the first one. I used to be my opening word a lot of time, pretty much every day. I know it's not going to be the word because it was the word once already. Well, let's talk about food. Just guessing, of course, as always. I got two letters there. So anyway, the point of the story was intended to be that unless you're the top of the food chain, you're always going to feel like you got reason to be concerned about your don't like to do it, but it's jumping out at me. Um, unless you're at the top of the food chain, you're always feeling like you've got an existential crisis to be addressing. And it's not a great way to live. It's not up to me to decide for people, though. It's not up to me. Hey, I got it in 5. That's pretty great. Um, so today's Friday, like I said, January 2nd, 2025. Today's ordinarily be a day when I go and run errands and stuff. Don't have any of that really on the chain of events for the day. I've got some work that I want to get started on, laying the groundwork for something else that's more substantial that's coming soon. So just trying to lay the groundwork. And I've found that rest for my own sake. Rest is not just not working. Rest means also to be confident that you got things under control. And so just trying to make sure that staying on top of that too. I don't know what else I have to say really, other than love you, bye.